What's happening? Today is Tuesday morning, 11:30 Mountain Standard Time, and just had to get some stuff off my chest on what I saw today. So here's the big issue that I have. I have a big issue with the NFL. They really did this. If you watch that Chiefs game, that 39, they let a play happen and then they went back to it. So why did they let that play happen and then redo it again? They already made the play. So if I were Cincinnati, yeah, I'd be pissed off. I'd be mad as heck at, at what they did. So don't know why they would do that. And it's just amazing to see what happened in that 49er and Eagles game and then have that happen again. So I'll be just doing this stream for about 30 minutes. And if there's any callers, I'm welcome to call in. You can call in. So as I was looking at what the commissioner said a few years ago about making this a WWE style entertainment type of venue, and the thought occurred to me is that if you did that and you control how the outcome of a game happens, then why even have all of this hoopla about who's the best players available to come into the league? Shouldn't the players be the one to decide the outcome of games, not referees? And I just had to get on here today and talk about that. The NFL is not playing the referees to play the game. They are paying the players to play the game. So it's just injustice to see. Now, the Eagles and Niners game, that was just a tough game for the 49ers because they lost Brock Purdy in the first series of the offense. So, I mean, what can they do? But to look at it deeper in that Kansas City and Cincinnati Bengals game, that was like, it was totally out of hand that they would do that. 39, we all saw it. They just went back and said, okay, we're going to redo the down over and put time back on there. So why would they put time back on there if they let the play go? That was just absurd. So when I saw that come through the news feed this morning of what of that play and what the referees did in that game, Kansas City and the Cincinnati Bengals, and I thought to myself, there must be more to this. And then right on cue, Yahoo Sports, right there, Andy Reid fired Nick Sirianni when he first got to Kansas City. Now, did he really fire Nick Sirianni, or he just say, "Hey, Nick, there's not room for you here. I have my guy. He's coming over with me. He's been with me in Philadelphia before he came over." So that just piques the interest of, really, NFL? This is what you wanted? A match that features a head coach, two head coaches, one that fired the other when he first got to Kansas City, and then the other one making it on the team that he formerly was the head coach of. Is this what the NFL has come down to? That they want to see the referees, or they want to control how outcomes are? I mean, that's a shame that they should do that. It's a shame that they would do such a thing, because this is a player-driven league, and the players should be the one deciding everything on the field, and the coaches playing, doing the plays and everything. So I just don't get why the NFL would want to do something like that. But then I remember that once this president came into the NFL, um, Roger Goodell, when he became the president, he said that he wanted to become a WWE type entertainment league because of revenues that it would bring in, and we see it all over. There's a lot of revenues coming in, multi-billion-dollar revenues coming into the NFL. But that's just disservice, and this is it's not warranted for them to be able to decide the outcome of games when it should be left up to the players and their coaches. I mean, they do the hard work, they do it all, trying to get to a place where they dreamed of all their lives. Play hard, work hard, get fit and ready to go into a game, and then to see all your hopes and dreams, because we never know when a if a team can make it back there next year to the playoffs, even because you don't know what the situation would be with free agency, with the draft. You know, there's a lot of must-have players that come in the draft, and you got to get this guy, you got to pick him, you got to draft this guy, and he turns out to be a total bust, and then you're behind again for another 2, 3, 4 years. Sometimes some teams are behind for a lot longer than that. But that's just a disservice that the NFL has done by allowing this kind of stuff to happen. The team that really deserved to be in there, uh, besides I want the 49ers, they should have been in there if Brock Purdy didn't get hurt. I think they would have won. But the that's not the case. Cincinnati, Kansas City, that is just, I have no words to say what that was. Replaying it down, putting time back on there. That holding call or the pass interference call would have never happened if they would have let that play, if it would have just been that fourth down. But they didn't. It Yeah, so that's yesterday in the stream I played from the volume what Richard Sherman said about the referees, and then I see this on Twitter feeds and everybody talking about how bad the referees were. I don't think it was up to the refs. I think it was up to whoever it is that's up at the top of the NFL, and he's the one that controlled it. And that's where we're at now. I mean, who even wants to watch a Super Bowl that the NFL put out there? It should be about the players getting what they deserve. It should be about the players understanding that, hey, we worked hard for this and we wanted it and we got it because we played hard. But that's not what happened. So aside from that, man, it's just crazy to see that happening, and then the headlines on these bigger media outlets of, oh, it's going to be Andy Reid, he fired Nick Sirianni. So that's going to be the headline for the Super Bowl, is they wanted these two to go up face to face. Andy Reid go play the team that he coached for what, 15 years or something like that. It was a long time he was there in Philadelphia. He didn't win a Super Bowl there. Went to Kansas City. He won a Super Bowl there. Nick Sirianni goes over to Philadelphia. And then this year, they make it to the Super Bowl. That was the plan the whole year. The plan is to, hey, players, come in. You guys play as hard as you can. But we're going to dictate to who's going to make it to the Super Bowl. I mean, that's just a rant that I have for today, but it's warranted when you look at Yahoo Sports and they come out with that headline: Sirianni, who got fired by Andy Reid, and that's what you get. So I think that the NFL needs to look at themselves. And I mean, who am I? I'm just a small channel on YouTube. But it's it's a start somewhere. Somebody needs to talk about it. If nobody is, I am. I'm going to do it because they should be ashamed of themselves. That's a lot of money. A lot of players work hard and they fight to get to a certain place and then have it ripped away from them. Um, Kansas City, they shouldn't be in the Super Bowl. If Brock Purdy would have won, they would. I believe the San Francisco 49ers would have been in the Super Bowl. But it is what it is, and this is where we're at. Other news that I want to cover today is looking forward to who's getting released by the San Francisco 49ers and who are they going to try to go get. So the guys that I wanted, I'm going to go back to the McGlinchey draft, that draft year. There's a guy that played for Washington, big sucker. He's Tongan, played for Washington. And when he was coming out in that draft, I was like crossing my fingers. Please pick this guy. Get this guy on this team. Imagine if they had on the defensive line for that 2019 Super Bowl. Eric Armstead, Nick Bosa, Vita Vea, and losing my train of thought here. The guy that they traded to pick up Kinlaw from Hawaii. He actually went to Oregon, played right next to Eric Armstead. Oh, Buckner, DeForest Buckner. Imagine having that line right there. Defoe, Eric Armstead, Vita Vea, and Nick Bosa. And then at the time, we had D Ford also at the end. What kind of lineup would that have been? I mean, that would have been a monstrous line. So this year's draft, I'm just letting it out early because I really don't care about the Super Bowl coming up. It doesn't matter to me. So this draft coming up, there's a kid from Baylor, last name Yika, Tongan guy. He's a little bit smaller than Vita Vea's weight-wise. But just imagine him in there. No Javon Kinlaw. You have this guy in there. I think the San Francisco 49ers D-line will be amazing if they did that pickup. And another poly guy that I want them to grab, if it's possible. And I don't know if he's coming out in the draft or not. I haven't heard. But Noah Sewell, linebacker from Oregon. Why? Because I think that instead of having him play linebacker, which he can, he's got the speed and he's freaking huge. He's got the size for it. But just imagine him rushing a passer. I saw him play since he was in the 8th grade out here locally, and that's one of the players that I would bring on board. The other on offense, we just need to get a for sure right tackle. That McGlinchey draft still bitter for me because I think they should have kept the right tackle that we had at the time. Dwayne Brown, he ended up getting cut by the team or traded by the team to New England, to the Patriots. I think they should have just kept him. I think he would have been a lot better than McGlinchey. So I know he didn't have the speed to get out and run and to fit in this offense for Kyle Shanahan. You need linemen that can get out and run and have pass protection also. But I think that they should have just kept him. I mean, he went on. The Patriots won the Super Bowl. Then he went to Seattle. He shored up that line there. He journeyed from there, but I think they could have just used him for a couple more years while they find the right tackle that they needed. I don't think when they drafted McGlinchey, I was not thrilled with that. I was not thrilled with the Thomas draft either. In that first year that they came in and drafted Thomas, I had high hopes for Reuben Foster. Thought he was going to do something, but no. And then DK Metcalf. I think the San Francisco 49ers should have traded up, grabbed DK Metcalf the same year they grabbed Samuel. Just imagine that lineup of having it. But going back to that defensive line, if the San Francisco 49ers would have drafted Vita Vea instead of Mike McGlinchey and they kept Buckner, they probably would have won a Super Bowl. So that's what I think. So the San Francisco 49ers just need to regroup, get everything out of the way. Brock Purdy, he didn't get the news that he wanted yesterday. He looks like he's going to be out maybe 6+ months as he rehab to get his arm back in shape. So don't know what's going to happen with that. And there's going to be a lot of different players that's going to be signed by the San Francisco 49ers lot that's going to be released because they have to pay Nick Bosa. So there's a lot of ways for the 49ers to get a lot better in their interior line. They need to get another person from McGlinchey. I don't know who, but they need to get somebody else. His pass protection is not good. His run blocking is good, but they just need to shore up that side. They have really good young guys that are up and coming, like Jason Poe. I think he'll be really good. Contraz Knight coming in for defense. I think he's going to be really good. And I think that the way that Kyle Shanahan does everything, if you're a rookie, unless something major happens, you're not going to really play. Like they totally shut down Drake Jackson in the last 2 games, which I think that they should have put him on the field. They should have just put him out there. You never know when it comes to playoff football. You never know how players react. They'll come in and they'll go after things. And I believe Drake Jackson could have made a difference on that line in the last 2 games. But I mean, we're here. We're set for next year. We'll see what happens in the free agency market and in the draft. I'll tell you what, if they let go a couple of guys from the Raiders, I would like to see Josh Jacob come over. I mean, he would be a good pickup for the San Francisco 49ers. Come on in there. So it's just, I just wanted to get on here today and talk about the NFL and what they did and the things that they're doing that just unfair and unjust towards the players. That just something that just completely blows my mind on that they would do something like that. And it's just terrible to see that kind of stuff happening, that they would determine the outcome of some games. And I'm particularly just talking about the Kansas City and Cincinnati Bengals play, that 3rd and 9 play. And that's just it's just a shame that they did that. Okay, enough about talking about the NFL and the BS that they always do every year. It's like they don't like some players getting into, or some team getting into the big dance because it's not making them any money. But man, geez, the San Francisco 49ers have a big following, and they should be all those ticky-tack calls and everything like that, just going back and rehashing what happened on Sunday. It's just crazy. Just crazy to see that happen. So every time I look at the news feed, Twitter, and see on the wire of players who are available, that were available, and thinking which players would I have went and drafted. So I told you of one, Vita Vea. That's one guy I would have drafted over McGlinchey. They could have just traded back and took Vita Vea. So that's one guy that I wish that the 49ers would have drafted instead of Mike McGlinchey. And then going back to the DK Metcalf draft. I really wish they would have traded up. We would have had, just imagine having him in that lineup with Debo Sanders and Brandon Ayuk. So that would have been a crazy matchup, and I don't think a lot of teams would have been able to match up to that kind of firepower. Okay, so looking at quarterback. So next year, the quarterback situation, I think it's going to be Trey Lance. He's going to have most of the reps and everything during training camp and also in the preseason because Purdy will still be out. And I don't think he's going to be ready to go until probably September, early October, depending on how the situation goes. But that's the timeline that I see happening for Brock Purdy. So they're going to need to pick up another player in the draft. I think that they should pick up the kid from BYU, Jaron Hall. I think he'll be a good pickup. He's got mobility. He's got an arm. He's really smart. He's about the same size as Brock Purdy, maybe a little bit taller than Brock Purdy, but they're in the same kind of mold. And that's who I think that they should draft. And they will have a lot of younger guys at the position, and the cap space wouldn't be so big because this year they got to pay a lot of guys. There's a ton of guys that they need to pay this year. And I know the salary cap went up. The NFL announced that yesterday, that it went up, and they'll have an extra 16-something million dollars extra for this upcoming year. And Nick Bosa is going to take a lot of that money. So he's going to be paid. I believe he's going to be paid the most for a defensive end. And he deserves it. He deserves it. He's the player that deserves that kind of money because there's a lot of attention that comes his way when he gets on the field. And a lot of those flags that you saw happen during the season that took away some of his sacks, that happened on Sunday with Dominic Sue just completely crushing Josh Johnson, where he got that concussion. So Dominic Sue hit him so hard like that. And then you go back and look at what Bosa did with Geno Smith in the regular season, where he just barely fell down on him. He tried to get out of the way, and they flagged him for it. It took away a touchdown from Lenore, but he was not able to capture that sack record for this year, which I think he would have got those sack records because I went back and looked at a lot of the games, and he lost. There's a lot of sacks that he lost because of flags being penalized for roughing the passer, which is completely absurd because on Sunday those referees let the Eagles get away with it in that game. So I am going to end the stream early. There is going to be, I'm going to get on later today with, I'm going to see if I can do something with Wolf, Niner Game Wolf cast later today. So hopefully we can make that work out. And then we'll get into the nitty gritty of the NFL news that's happening right now during this time. All right. That's all for this morning rant. NFL screwing with the players. They need the players to do and make the decisions for all of the games, not the referees.